Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm so glad you're here. It's good to see you. It's 7:01. Love that you're here. Um, my name is Curly. If you've been here before, this is D&B Q&A. I guess if you haven't been here before, this is D&B Q&A. If you've been before, thank you so much for coming back. If you haven't been before, I really hope you'll like it and you'll stick around and then you can come back. Um, what do we do here? Well, I'm crazy about drum and bass and jungle, and I talk to other people who like it. And basically, we just have a conversation, see where it goes. If you're here, you're in the chat, please participate. We really want you here. My guest tonight is DJ Roxanne, and some of you guys might not know her. She's a DJ in LA, and she doesn't stream. She did, we'll talk about this, but she did a live stream from Respect in LA, I believe. But she doesn't really stream, so I know all you guys might not know her, but she's amazing. She has a really cool backstory. She's been involved in jungle and drum and bass for a really long time. So this is going to be really cool. Any questions you have, tag me. Just say the name Roxanne. I'll see it, and we will do our best to get it answered. We'd like to involve you in the conversation as well. Um, just so you guys know, there is, I'm doing a fundraiser. Next month is my birthday, and because I don't need presents, I've been very lucky. The pandemic has not affected my income. Plus, I'm going to be 46 years old. You know, birthday party thing is, presents. It's weird for me, not for everybody. But what I would love to do for my birthday is raise money for mental health charities. So I'm raising money for NAMI in the US and Mind in the UK. Any subs, bits, whatever that happen in the month of March and April, I'm going to donate all of it. But I would much rather you take that money and donate it directly to the charities through Tiltify. I have links up for my campaigns on Tiltify. You can pick, you can decide if you want your money to go to NAMI in the US or you want your money to go to Mind in the UK. There's a timer, so these links will keep coming up. Important thing to know, when you donate through these links, the money never comes to me. I never touch it. So you can be totally confident and totally assured that anything you give will go straight to the charities, excuse me. I also will figure out some way to sort of split, whatever money I come into through Twitch between the two charities. I'll probably maybe base that on like viewership percentages, like who's in North America versus who's in UK and Europe. But it was important to me to sort of give assistance in both places. The last 12 months have certainly highlighted the importance of taking care of our mental health. Whether you are someone who has a diagnosed chronic mental health condition, or you're someone who, has just been dealing with a lot of stress over the last 12 months and is facing feelings and complications that you never have before. These charities do amazing work. Mind, NAMI does this too, but one of the really cool things Mind talks about on their website is they do legal advocacy for people with mental health issues. So to advocate for good policies to help folks with mental illness, to provide them with legal advice about how to handle things like guardianships and, involuntary holds and things like that. So this is really good work. It's really important work. It's work that means a lot to me personally. And as we go through this month and next month, I'll be telling you guys a little bit about why it's so important to me. But yeah, so if that's something you want to do, awesome. If you can't do it or you don't want to do it, that's totally fine too. Basically, I just decided, hey, Twitch is generally a fun place to have a birthday from what I've seen. People give you attention, so I might as well give attention to some charities that could really use some help. So, yeah, that's it. No pressure. none of that. But now you know what those links are for. And yeah, we'll be talking about it more as it goes on. Wigs, I would love to talk to you about that. You've been in the mind service before. I would love to talk to you about what that experience was like offline. That would be amazing. Um, so real quick before I bring Roxanne in, I just want to once again big up Gouda D&B. Um, guys, he did he did like the fundraiser that set the bar for like every fundraiser on Twitch. He was raising money for an organization called the Princess Trust in the UK, and they make human hair wigs for children with who've lost their hair due to medical conditions, cancer, other things, and they provide them with real hair, real hair wigs to kind of give them, a sense of normalcy in a very, very difficult time. So he he raised like 225% of his goal. His goal initially was 2,000, and it was at right at or over 4,500 by the time the event ended. It was run really well. Everybody that was a part of it was super excited about it, and it was really great to be a part of. The vibe of it was amazing, which from Gouda is no surprise. He is a vibe just himself. Um, uh, I got to participate in it, and I really appreciate the fact that he asked me to, because it was such a blessing to be a part of. So props to Gouda for that. Yeah, he's a good guy. He has a platform, and to use it to help other people is fantastic. And he shaved his head. He's been growing his hair for 7 years, and he cut it off and donated it to the organization so they could make some wigs out of it. And if you haven't seen him with a shaved head, it's so different. He looks so much younger, but he looks very cute, very handsome. Um, it's just quite a difference. He was actually wearing a hat today on stream and said he had bought this hat like forever ago, and he couldn't wear it because he just had too much hair. So he was very excited to be able to wear his hat today. Um, so yeah, everybody's here for now. I mean, I'm sure other people will show up, but I'm going to go ahead and bring Roxanne in. So before she comes in, I'll just tell you guys that Roxanne has been a DJ for a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but I know it was in the 90s. We'll talk about it. She was born in the Bronx, moved to Florida, grew up there, moved to LA. She was heavily involved with the Ground Score collective, their crew. I don't know what the right term is for that anymore. In San Francisco as well. So she has deep, deep experience in the jungle and drum and bass scene on the West Coast. Um, she also went to a performing arts school, and I'm super interested in talking about that. So, oh, and she is a forensic anthropologist intern right now. So that's going to be super fun. And she's a self-described nerd, and I really want to learn more about that. So, uh, Miss Roxanne, hi.
Hello.
Here you are. Ah,
Can
yes, guys, can you hear Roxanne all
you
right?
hear me now?
Yeah,
Can
can
you
you
hear
hear
me
me now? Roxanne is coming to us from
now?
the call center on her break.
Hi. Do you want to renew your warranty on your car? Fucking, those fucking
Ok,
stupid phone calls that I get every day.
oh my god. I don't even answer my phone anymore. I'm just like I'm pretty sure my voicemail
Whose
says
number is that? Swipe.
exactly. I don't know that number. Nope.
Yeah,
I either
swipe.
hit the red phone on my watch, or I just ignore it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, everybody can hear you, so that's good.
Okay.
Meta, thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate that. Um, Wes, who the fuck uses an auto warranty anymore? Right? And like the warranty they're trying to sell you is like super expensive, and a lot of them are like major scams. So yeah, no, no. I remember I got a
Life
call
is
one
a
time, and I was
scam.
like, say again,
I said life is a scam.
right? Late stage capitalism. Woo! Um, yeah. So, okay, you know what? Let's just go and talk about this first real quick.
Sure.
So, one of the things that I've really loved about your Instagram lately has been
Mhm.
your stories from either you getting ready for or being at the local food bank and DJing for
Oh,
the
yep, yep.
volunteers. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, that's kind of important right now. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about like what you do, how you got started doing that?
Yeah. So when the pandemic first, like everything got shut down and the world came to a screeching halt, um, 1 year ago, this week, I guess it was, or last
Oh
weekend.
God, yeah.
At the time, I was still in school. I was working as bartender at two very big venues here in LA, and I lost my job, as everybody did.
Hmm.
Everybody stopped working except for those who could work from home, and I can't do that from home. But
Right.
I was also teaching, and I was doing this internship. I do like a bunch of things. So I was doing
Mhm.
some other stuff, but I was like, that was my main source of income, and I was like, oh
Right.
shit. So my very good friend Roger, who had been involved in different organizations around Los Angeles, there's organizations that feed the homeless. There's an organization called Shower of Hope that provides showers for the homeless via
Oh,
a
nice.
trailer, like a portable trailer. They do that every week. There's a million different ones, and he works with a big handful of them. So he was working with Urban Partners LA, which is the food bank in my neighborhood. I live in Koreatown. And he just called me one day and was like, um, since the pandemic started, our need for food has quadrupled. The lines are wrapped around blocks and blocks and blocks. People are standing in line, getting in line at 3 a.m., and they're waiting in line until the food bank opens at 6 a.m. So they can make sure
Wow.
that they get food. Yeah, so there was this huge need for food all of a sudden because everybody was out of work. Things were really rough around here. And he was like, will you come and DJ for the volunteers? Because things have just been kind of somber. And I feel like anytime music is involved, it just sort of like lifts people up. And
Mm.
it's a bit of a driver when you're working in a situation that's not happy, I guess you could
Yes.
say.
Yes.
So he was like, look, I know you just lost your job. Like, I'll pay you. Because he was working. He had like a full-time job. He works in a job where he could work from home. So he was like, I'll pay you to come. And I was like, okay. And I had just bought this controller behind me. I have a Denon Prime 4 channel.
Nice.
And I was like, all right, I'll just bring my monitors and my controller and we'll make it happen. And so I was the first DJ that they had come through, and everybody was so happy, and it was like such a good time. I play like 4 hour sets when I go there, and I
Nice.
play literally the spectrum of everything. Like I'll play like 70s funk and R&B and 90s hip hop and house and drum and bass, and like I'll just play everything. I mean, it's 4 hours. I could literally play, whatever.
Right.
And it just sort of became a regular thing. I stopped taking his money when I started working. I was like, don't give me. I was like, put that money back into the food bank, put it into other DJs that need it more than I do. Just um, put it into. I want to like buy like a proper sound system for the food bank because now it's turned into this thing where Roger volunteers there. He every morning, every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. He's there. He's taking care of the line. There's different jobs. There's like a whole thing that they have going on. It's a huge hustle. But he's like their talent buyer now. And so now it's not just me DJing. It's like all of these other guest DJs are coming through and playing the set on Saturdays. So yeah, I'm still doing it. I do it a couple times a month, and other
That's
DJs are playing.
that's amazing. Like, I definitely am with you. I've said that there's no job so awful that listening to music can't make it less awful.
Right.
Um, can't make it just even just a little better. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, not only are they dealing with a lot of people really having to serve them quickly, but they're
Mm-hmm.
seeing how desperate people are constantly while they're dealing
Yeah.
with their own, trauma of everything
Right.
that's
They
going
probably have
on.
lost their jobs too. Not everybody
Right.
that's there is going to be in that position. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's rough.
Right.
But music
That's
makes everything better. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Now, did yes, Wes, Roxanne does have the big helper energy for sure. Now, so speaking of Wes, uh,
Mhm.
didn't he say a couple, was it just last weekend? The time is, oh no, it was the weekend before last. Time has no meaning. It's 2021. Um,
Time's an illusion.
didn't he say that you had gotten a pretty big recognition for what you were
Oh,
doing
yeah.
there for the food bank?
Yeah, so to my surprise, um, I well, there was another one before that, but I mean, I'm always just surprised because I don't really expect things like that. I'm just there, doing my thing, everybody's doing their thing, we're all trying to help each other. Um, my friend got one, my friend Roger, who I mentioned, he got a recognition from the House of Representatives, like Congress, basically. And
Wow.
the recognition was for helping feed families that are impacted by COVID during the pandemic. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing, Roger. Like, you deserve it more than anybody I know. And then he called me. He's like, yeah, you got one too. It's like, I'm sorry, what?
This is federal
Excuse
Congress. This
me?
is not like California.
So, yeah,
Wow.
it was prompted by our district's like Senate and House representative.
Right.
He is the one who made it happen, but it's like signed by him and other members of the House. I was like, wow, it has like an official seal on it. It's quite impressive. I was very
I
surprised.
love
I didn't
that.
expect it. It wasn't just me that got it. It was him, the woman who runs Urban Partners. Her name is Trinity Tran. She got one, of course. Some of the key volunteers and some of the other DJs as well.
That's amazing. How nice to hear of a positive feel-good story coming out of the Capitol,
I
recognizing
know.
the investments of human capital for those that are struggling. Lovely thing.
Yeah.
Lovely
Yes.
thing. Yeah. Wes says that you're now a Fed, so he is on the run from you
Promise.
now. He's using a VPN anytime he goes into El Hornet Stream, and yeah, uh, he doesn't want you to find him. I guess he's scared of the feds.
Holy shit. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Don't
So
be
yeah, that's how
scared.
I met you is
Uh-huh.
in El Hornet Stream. And I mean, and obviously
Yeah.
Wes very early on said that I needed to get you on here and talk with
Oh,
you. But that stream is like a super special place. Like
yes,
it is
absolutely. I've met a
it
lot of
is
great people in there for sure.
yeah, and like it is like a shockingly good vibe to me. It was not what I expected at all. At all. Roxanne and I are both having a drink, Wes.
I see Wes. Actually, I'm drinking Prosecco, okay?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Close
She's a
enough.
classy
It's got
lady.
bubbles.
Tiny bubbles.
Tiny bubbles.
Okay, so let's go back.
Okay,
So,
here we go.
music was clearly a part of your life because as I was doing some research on you, I
Mhm.
found a bio and I noticed that it said that you went
Yeah.
to the Dillard School of Performing Arts. Um,
hmm
so, tell
Um,
me a little bit
okay.
about that, how you found yourself there and what you
So,
studied.
I don't know. As a kid, I basically played all the instruments. I took an interest in anything I could pick up and play. Anything. Violin, trumpet, drums, bass. No pun intended. um, sorry about the dad joke. Uh,
Destiny. It was destiny.
that wasn't on purpose. I just caught it as it was happening. I played guitar for a really long time. I was super into it when I was about, I'd say I started playing at around 11 or 12,
Nice.
and I got really good at it. However, and I played piano too. However, I wasn't very good at reading music. I was really good at like hearing it and playing it. Like I could
Okay.
hear anything and play it. And so I went and auditioned at the performing arts school because I really wanted to go. And they were letting people audition that could come in like on scholarship because my mom was poor and she couldn't afford it. So I did get in. They were concerned with the fact that I couldn't read music, but they were impressed with the fact that I could play anything and hear it. I was like little Elton John. I don't know if you saw the movie, but his was like the same. So yeah, I did that for about a year, and then went off and did had to go do normal school things, and my mom was like, go do normal school shit, and I was like, okay, fine. But I did keep playing guitar, and I did that for a long time, and I played with bands, local bands in Florida. I did that whole thing. I was, into metal and punk rock and ska. I was kind of into everything, hip hop, and then kind of coming up playing an instrument, and I hung out with all these local bands in my neighborhood, and I got really into like jazz clinics and like super nerdy, like Chick Corea. I was going to like Chick Corea concerts, but then I was going to see Fishbone. I mean, all of the musician friends that I was friends with were in like death metal bands, but they were also like these crazy, like insane musicians that could also play in jazz bands, which is, interesting because actually a lot of the musicians in that world are like that. So yeah, I kind of did that for a really long time, and then I guess around I'd say when I was about 19 or 20, I kind of like stopped playing. Not really completely, but I guess I just lost interest. I was looking for something new, and I was working in a nightclub, right, going into when I was like learning how to bartend and stuff, and I really wanted to be a DJ. And then I was like, I want to be a hip hop DJ. I was very into like 90s hip hop. I still am. It's like one of my favorites. And so I kind of was like trying to like, how do I learn? How do I figure this out? Who has turntables I can use? Who has records I can use? Like until I figure it out. And I kind of got laughed at. They were like, get the hell out of here. You can't DJ, girl. And I was like, what? Fuck you. Yes, I can. And
Good for
so
you.
I met a girl. I don't even remember where we met, but probably at a rave when I was a raver. And she was a trance DJ, and we became really good friends. We ended up living together, and she had turntables, or she had the whole setup. And she was like, "I'll teach you how to DJ." And so she taught me how to beat match. And all the records I had to play were her trance records and like some house records. And she's like, I have 2 drum and bass records and they're yours. And so she gave me my first drum and bass records because that was what I wanted to play. I was like, I want to play drum and bass. So she gave me 2 records, and then that led to me in the record store every week, digging through records, kind of trying to find what I like, my own voice in music, so to speak. Everybody has that, right? I mean,
Right.
drum and bass, I guess, in this story. But yeah, so yeah, I was in the record store every week, listening to records, trying to find what I liked. And then, you meet your people and your scene. And I was in Florida, and that's like the breaks state. There was
Yes.
drum and bass, but it wasn't like, it was just breaks and house, not really techno. There was some drum and bass, but it was pretty small. It was a small scene. There was like a few of us in Fort Lauderdale. There was a few in Miami. There used to be a night called Beat Camp that was pretty big in Miami for a while. And so, yeah, that's kind of what got me into it and took me from the musician thing into the DJ thing. And yeah, that's the short
Okay.
version.
So, okay. So Wes wants to know what your first concert was. I thought that was a good question.
Oh, I don't know. It was probably some like grungy metal show at like the club. I don't know. I used to smoke a lot of weed and do a lot of drugs when I was younger. I did a lot of acid, smoked a lot of weed. I don't do anything now. I'm boring. But when I was really young, I got all of that out of my system. I think uh, it was probably like Death Angel or something crazy like that, or Megadeth. Like that's literally what I was going to all the time.
Nice.
Like my
Nice.
local bands were a band called Paramore, not to be confused with the Paramore that exists now. They were like
Okay.
a, they were like a, I don't know if I'd call them a black metal band. They were a metal band. I don't think I'd call them black metal, but they were along those lines.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the bands like I would go to see would be like Fishbone, Faith No More, Bad Brains. Man, I got like so many stories of. I used to, me and a friend of mine who was a drummer, we used to have a thing where we would go to shows and we would just pretend like we worked there and just walk backstage
Yes. Yes.
and get away
Yes.
with it. And then we would make friends with the bands and like smoke weed with them. And yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot of funny stories like that.
Nice. I'm thinking that prepared you very well for being a DJ. That's
Maybe.
the pretending like you belong is a really good skill as a
Yeah.
DJ.
It was really my friend that was very good at it, and I just sort of
Mhm.
followed his lead. I think the only time it didn't work was we tried to walk backstage at Faith No More show and we got caught. And they were like, get the fuck out of here. We were like, oh man.
Womp womp.
Womp
Um,
womp.
okay, so before I forget, I want to ask this, but then I want to rewind. So,
Okay.
uh, do you remember what those records were that
Yeah.
your trans DJ friend gave you?
Hold on. I can find one of them. Maybe.
Ooh, even
I'm not.
better, show and tell.
Hold on. I think it's in this pile of dub plates, I think. Or not. I don't know. Are you it? Yeah, I found one. It was
Nice,
um, Trace and Ed Rush.
nice.
John. It was a remix of John the Dentist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What year was
And
that?
oh,
What's the year on that bad boy?
that's a good question. Where the hell is it on here? Man, this had to be like.
Yeah, they don't always do it back. They didn't always do it back then.
Hold on, I'm looking on the etching to see if it says, but I don't know. We're gonna have to discogs that shit. I don't see it, and
Yeah,
it's in a
man.
white. It's in a white sleeve. Like
Yes. Yes.
in the sleeve it
Yes.
came in. I don't know.
Okay,
The
Wes
other
says probably
one,
95 or 96, so I'm sure he's
that
right.
sounds about right. I was gonna say 96 maybe. Um, the other one was a Tom and Jerry record. Oh, a Tom and Jerry remix, I think, of Killing Time is the song, Tech Nine.
Nice.
That's in here somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Those are very spendy, those Tom and Jerry records now.
Yeah. Um,
Very highly sought after.
I have not looked it up to see how much it's worth. I'm sure it's something crazy. But I'd never
Yeah.
give it up. It was my first record.
Yeah.
Never give it up.
Okay, so you wanted to be a DJ. What
Mm-hmm.
made you want to be a DJ? Like what was it? Like what was the defining sort of
I think it
was
was
there a
just
moment or was it, you know?
maybe moments. It's
Mhm,
well, I mean, I kind of got introduced to the rave scene because I worked at this big nightclub in Fort Lauderdale.
mhm.
And we used to do these after hour, like rave, whatever. And I guess one of the defining moments would have been Chemical Brothers played. This would have been 1994 or 5, 1995. I don't know. When I was like, okay, I want to DJ. um, but it was also like it was sort of a combination of that club, like, that club vibe, but then
Mhm,
also like being in love with music. I was always
mhm.
playing an instrument before. Like I just wanted to learn a new instrument, and it was turntables.
Right. Yep.
Not necessarily. And then I discovered drum and bass. Well, through my roommate, but also like that sort of led me down the rabbit hole of like CDs, like compilations, drum and bass compilations from the 90s were like my big rabbit hole. And
Yes.
there were so many amazing ones out of the UK. And then
Mhm.
that rabbit hole led to like the mixtape like packs of like the
Yes.
roast and all those different nights, the Renegade Hardware nights. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
It had
Yes.
all the things that like, it had all this blend of hip hop and metal and raga, which was reggae, and like all these
Mhm.
different like styles of music and the intricacies of how that music was made, and the programming
Mhm.
and all of that stuff spoke to me as a musician. So I was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So yeah, I learned to love jungle before my first jungle party that I went to. My friend gave me
Mm-hmm.
to listen a Fantasia Takes You Into the Jungle Volume 2, and it had a mix from rap, bookem, and groove writer.
Oh, yes.
I was like, yeah, this is nice. And then I heard it live, and that done. That's it. I'm sold. No,
Yeah.
no going back. Absolutely no going back.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so what year did you actually start DJing? So I guess you
I guess
started
I
working with
started
your
kind
friend.
of learning like 95, 96. I would say
Okay.
I DJ'd out for the first time in 97.
Okay.
Um, and it's a terrifying experience.
Oh God. Oh God.
I
Oh.
mean, I don't know. I was just like, oh, I can't do this. Um, so I'm from Florida, as you know, and Rabbit in the
Mm-hmm.
Moon is also from Florida.
Yes.
So through the collective of people that I was involved with in drum and bass, we were all friends with them, and they were up north in Orlando. We were down south, and so there was a party that they were doing, a huge party in Orlando, and my boyfriend at the time, who didn't, we did a night together. They were like, "Hey, do you guys want to just do the jungle room? Like, you guys put whoever you want in there, whatever." And so that was kind of like my very first in-person gig, and it was terrifying. Even though it was a tiny ass, shitty ass room with like a camo net, and it was dark and no one could see me.
Ah,
It
ah,
was
that's
like,
jungle in the
oh,
US
that
right
was
there,
for 30
man.
minutes, and then I was like, I'm gonna have an anxiety attack. I have to get out of here. But as it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did my hands shook so bad I could barely put the needle on the record
Yeah.
for my first gig. It was terrifying.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
terrifying. Hmm.
Yes, Wes is right. That's exactly how the good jungle rooms rolled.
It's
Yeah,
true.
man. Well,
Yep.
there's something about it's like a self-select, right? Like
Right.
if you're willing to be in the tiniest room with the shittiest sound system, with the most unknown DJs, with the
Oh
worst
my god.
monitors and all of that, you really like the music. And there's
Right.
like that sort of like foxhole bonding, kind of
Right.
nobody likes our music and it's the best. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what it was like for
Oh
me
man.
anyway. I mean, I
I mean,
imagine
look,
it was
that was drum and
similar.
bass in a hole for a long time. Long, long time.
Oh, yeah, Wes, being 1,000 degrees. Roxanne can relate to that, having started in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The best is when the room sweat. Like it wasn't
Water
just you
sweating.
sweating, it was the
Yeah.
room sweating. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
raining in here.
It gets like
Um,
that here in LA too. I mean, if there was a time like not that long ago. I guess this was 5 or 6 years ago. 5 years ago, there was a Hospital Records like briefly did a monthly kind of thing here, and they did it at a club that I bartended at. I kind of like took them there, and they were like, "We love this place. We should do a monthly here." And I was like, "Really? Yeah, you should totally do it here." And then
nice.
they did a few. They did two at the smaller club that I worked at, and then they ended up collaborating with Rob and doing it like a respect hospital thing. But
Nice.
the very first one, it was me, uh, Fred being graphics, and oh my god, I can't remember who else. I'll think of it in a minute.
Mhm.
But the air conditioner broke, and it was the peak of summer in Los Angeles, and it gets to be 100 degrees here in summer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was a club that the actual capacity was about 150 to 200 people, but we would normally squeeze about 300 in there. All
Fire
at the
marshal loved you guys.
Well, I mean, it was just this random little club in Glendale, which is like a neighborhood. Anyway,
Yes.
like so. I remember it was like the very first hospital show there, and the air conditioner broke, and like, what are you gonna do? Can't do anything about it on the day of. And it was so hot. Like I went on, and there was like a sea of people outside, like dying to get in because it was a
Right.
hospital night, like a tiny
Right.
intimate thing. I opened, and as soon as they opened the doors, like people just came running in, and it was just like instantly hot. And I
Yes.
just remember playing, and we're just like dripping sweat. I remember I bartended that night too because I worked there. So I played, and then I went behind the bar, and everybody was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Yeah, what do you want? What do you want to drink?"
Keeping you humble.
I just remember going behind the bar and picking up like a pitcher of ice water and being like, "Oh my god, it's so hot." And
At-
I think
you did
like
have access to a lot of water. That was good.
I think Chris Goss from Hospital, he was just like so like overwhelmed with the heat. He had to like leave. I think it was just it was an amazing night. Like
Mhm.
music, like it was rammed to the fucking gills, even though it was
Yes.
hot. People still stayed, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I bet the vibe was as thick as the air.
it
The
was.
Yeah. Well, and bless his heart. I mean, he's definitely England did not prepare him for that situation,
No,
temperature
no.
wise, at
Like
all.
it was like mixed feelings. Like he was pissed, but he was also so happy that it was such a successful night. He was also like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm wondering, like, um, it must be like a uniquely American thing because when Wes was on, I mean, he had multiple stories that involved air conditioning that made
Yeah.
nights very memorable. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah. Okay, so you started DJing roughly 95, 96. Started playing out in 97.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so what was it like for you, like DJing in Florida, as far as like getting
Um,
bookings and all of that?
well, I mean, I mean, drum and bass was big there, right? So we did our own thing. We kind of
Hmm.
made, like, it's like when you're living in a place where it's not like that music isn't prominent, you make your own night, you make your own
Yeah.
way. Like,
Yep.
you hustle and kind of do your own thing. And so it was myself and Frank Mendez, our roommate at the time, this guy named Clearwater, who still does amazing stuff, makes music. He has his own crazy Twitch stream. I think it's called
Uh,
Escape Velocity.
yes,
Yeah, he's my old roommate. I've known him for
that would be
20 years.
the A1 Voodoo. So he's your old
Yeah,
roommate?
he's my old roommate.
Amazing.
Once in a while,
Small
I'll pop into
world.
his stream and he'll like tell everybody all these stories. We used to do a radio show together, me, him, and Frank, called DMZ Rinse Radio, and this was in '98 that we were
Yes.
on the air doing like a radio show playing vinyl, which is kind of weird to think back on. Like that is such a long ass time ago. We were doing that then. No,
Yes.
not many people were doing that. Unlike people in London were doing it. I don't really know many. I think some people in Miami were doing it. TC Islam was doing it for a while,
Hmm.
and he used to come and MC on our little radio show. Whenever MC50 was in town, which is like a super old school name to mention. I don't know if you know who MC50 is, but he's like one of
I
the
don't.
in the like mid '90s, like jungle era. MC50 was huge, like you know, as huge as GQ or any of the other ones. Actually, I have
All
a
right.
picture here. Remember, I said I was going to pull out some
Yes.
pictures.
Yes.
Okay, so
Y'all,
here's a picture.
Roxanne has a paper book of printed photos, not just her phone.
Not just my phone. This is from my photo album. This is a picture of MC. There's Fresh. Well, sorry, my fucking. Where's my camera? Okay,
There you go. Yeah.
my hand. There's Fresh right there. There's
Yes.
50 and there's Goldie. And this is at Winter Music Conference in 2001 at the Metalheads party. um,
Nice.
yeah, MC50 was like a legendary old school MC, but I don't know whatever happened to him. I think unfortunately got involved in like heavy drugs, and he kind of disappeared. And
Yeah.
these things happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yes.
But
Yes.
he was around, and he was like a well-to-do big MC at the time. I could see
Mhm.
Wes saying "baby fresh." Yeah, like he's
Yes.
like look how fucking high he is in that photo. Also, like what?
Look at him. He is baby.
Oh, look at his little baby face. He's barely got facial hair.
Man, I'm jealous
Uh,
because like to be sort of from Florida, which even if you weren't living there at the time makes it super
uh,
easy to go back and have that easy access
oh,
to
yeah.
WMC. Wes, was it you? No, maybe it was my friends in Houston. They drove
Mhm.
from Houston to go to WMC. Like
Oh, wow, that's a drive.
hardcore. Yeah. That's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
it's like a 25-hour drive or something maybe.
Holy crap.
Um
Really? Shit.
okay, so
Yeah.
actually Burner says that 50 is actually still emceeing live in the
Wow.
UK. So that's
I wish
good.
I knew that all the times I was there. Because I haven't seen that guy since I was in Florida. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was always around and he would come hang with us and MC on the show. And he was a cool dude. I just,
Nice.
yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys were doing your own thing. I mean,
Uh-huh.
obviously, Clearwater is insanely
Clearwater.
rapidly passionate as well.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
he was like my encyclopedia of drum and bass too when I was still like figuring it out. Because like when I met,
Mhm.
so I think I met Clearwater in '98 ish. It must have been like it was like right around the time when I first started DJing, and
Mhm.
like dude had the sickest collection of drum and bass, like shit you couldn't find anywhere unless you were lived in London.
Right.
And I mean, I would just have like every day at home, I would just have a dig through his records. He'd be like, yeah, go ahead. And I would just have a dig through all his like incredible fucking collection. It was like digging through Discogs. That's what his record
Yes.
collection was like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the best
That's
way I can describe it.
that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So sounds
So
like he
he,
was very supportive of you then, um,
oh yeah,
letting you
absolutely.
touch his vinyl. It's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Wes,
Mhm.
same. Never got to go to WMC because I had a job, right?
Oh.
And unfortunately, being a badass DJ wasn't the job. Um,
All right.
uh,
I mean, even
okay,
being that
so
isn't really tough.
yeah, so you and I talked about this a little bit before we went live, and we're
Okay.
definitely going to have to talk about this more later. But since Wes asked, let's talk about it a little bit. He says I'd really be interested to hear about being one of the few female drum and bass DJs in the U.S.
Okay. Um, well, let's see. At the time when I first started, there in Florida, it was myself, another girl, Amy. She was a resident DJ who started Beat Camp, and she was amazing. I loved her. She did more of a. She played like really, really like almost industrial. Like Panacea was her shit. And
Nice.
like that was sort of the kind of night that they did. And they did a great night in Miami at this teeny tiny little club called Zanzibar. And they did a night called Beat Camp. And they brought everybody out. Like Panacea played there, Tech Itch played there. During WMC, it was used by Beat Camp to do parties. Dom played there, like Dom and Roland. A bunch of people played, and that was like our other connection to a collective of drum and bass people. She was the only other female aside from myself there. And then
Hmm.
I met Empress, DJ Empress from New York.
Yep.
There was Carol C at the time. There was Reed Speed.
Yep.
So Reed, Christina, and then on the West Coast there was Laura Sage.
Hmm.
So there was like a handful of us. It wasn't like
Right.
just me
Right.
or
Right.
just Empress.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like in comparison to now, there was just a handful of us.
Yes.
Um, like it was, I don't want to say that
Girl, you
like
can be on. You can just,
I'm just trying to pick. It's so
yeah.
long.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't like I guess everybody's experience is different. I can't speak for any of the other women who are doing
Hmm.
this. I will say that like it was hard for me, even within my own circle sometimes.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, I don't like want to just make a claim based on, I can just say what I think, how it was. I think it was
Right.
like if I had any type of success in getting gigs or doing anything, there was like people were mad about it. Like, they were pissed off. Like, well, why do you get to do that? Well, because
Mhm.
I fucking like played all these mixes and like spent hours making this live vinyl mix. It took me forever to make it perfect. And
Mhm.
then went to every record store and like put all my tapes on consignment. I wrote to every single promoter around the country and sent out all my mixtapes. I talked to every DJ I could on AIM and ICQ and IRC to like network with people to get a gig, and that's why I have a gig.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
because I'm a girl, because I'm a good DJ, not because I spent a lot of time learning how to DJ, because I spent a lot of time figuring out like my records and how to put them
Mhm.
together in a good way, because that's what good DJs do.
Mhm.
So I definitely, that was probably the most frustrating thing. But, you know, aside from that, a lot of any of the other things were very like passive, and I don't think people realized that it was wrong or I don't know, like offensive. For example, this is a really funny one. I wish I had the thing to show you guys, but because it's in a box, I don't know where. Um, at this time, I had already been DJing for a while, and I had a booking agent, and I was getting booked to play parties out of state. And
Mhm.
there was normally I'm that person. Like, I have so much shit going on. Like, I don't pay attention. Just tell me when I have to go and when I have to be there and what I got to do, and like
Mhm.
I'll go do it. Like, I don't pay attention to the names of parties and stuff. So there was this party in Arizona that I got booked to play, and my agent just emailed me, was like, "You're playing this party, the end." And she didn't tell me what it was. She just said,
Mhm.
"This is your booking, and here's your information. Goodbye." And I was like, "Cool." And so the promoter actually emailed me, and he was like, "I am so excited." It was an all-female party, by the way. So
Mhm.
he brought in, which was amazing. He brought in
Mhm.
women from all over the country to play this party in different genres. So it was like
Mhm.
trance, it was house, it was drum and bass. He might have even had a hardcore room. Huge party, and it was all women. And and this was pretty precedent at the time, because this was
Yes.
early, it was like in 2000. And
Mhm.
so he was like, "I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you. Like, I'm such a huge fan." He's like, "The name of the party is Fat Chicks Rule." And it was fat, like PHAT. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Wait, the name of the party is what?" But he was like, in his mind, it was like the ultimate, like, praise, I guess you could
It was a
say.
compliment. Yeah,
It
in
was a
his mind.
compliment, but like to us, we were like, "I'm sorry, what?" So
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh man," and I can tell like it was very innocent. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
he meant any harm by it at all. It was
Right.
hilarious. I was laughing my ass off at the fact that it's a Fat Chicks Rule, PHAT, pretty hot
Oh,
and
man.
tempting.
Oh my god.
And so I wrote to my agent and I was like, "What the fuck?" Really? And she was like, "Whatever, they're paying you, whatever amount." And I was like, "All right, fine." But it was,
Uh,
and also he really didn't, like, he was actually really excited to bring all these people out. But it was just little things like that,
mhm.
where people don't realize that it's like a step backwards and not a step forwards. I don't really know. I mean, maybe it seems trivial, but it actually kind of isn't. I mean, on so many levels. Like, first of all,
Yeah.
you're saying fat chicks, but then like you don't mean actual weight, but then like maybe you're going to offend someone who's overweight. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
We can go
Yeah.
on and on about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite hilarious, but it was also like, dude, no. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, yeah, there's this really, I mean, I know for me, like, there was this really weird thing, like, like I
Uh-huh.
played an all-female party. Sage actually came. It was in Dallas, but
Mhm.
it was thrown by women. And so like
Okay.
the spirit of it was very, it was
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
extremely respectful and, all of that. But there was such a weird, and I don't know if it's like this anymore, but at that
Mhm.
moment in time, there was this weird thing where it was like you people wanted to push women, but at the
Mhm.
same time, they were like othering women too. It was like this really weird, like,
Yeah.
like, let's bring them to the front, but it's because they're a
Mhm.
novelty. Really weird, like, thing to walk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I can't say I had any like horrible experiences, thankfully. I think most people were just scared of me. So I was very, I mean, I'm 6 feet tall and like I was
Hmm.
just intimidating to people. So nobody really fucked with me. Yeah. And people were just like, oh, don't fuck with the like tall goth chick. She's gonna kill me. Like, and I mean, I'm the nicest person, but I wasn't very approachable. And like, if you didn't know me, like, I'm just
Right.
like, whatever. But yeah, I think that it's not on purpose. It's just my face.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I probably experienced less bullshit, at least to my face anyway. Because of that, that doesn't mean I didn't experience it. I mean, I don't know if I want to dive into this particular thing, but I'll mention it. When I moved out here, um, I was dating another DJ at home in Florida. And when
Hmm.
we broke up, it wasn't a great breakup. It was like, I thought it was fine, but it wasn't fine. He was like, he wasn't fine with it. And he
Hmm.
was extremely, he was definitely a person that was like not cool with me doing well as a DJ or getting gigs or anything. So when I left
Hmm.
to move out here to be more successful as a DJ at the time, I moved here because I was DJing here all the time. And
Right.
so there was, I don't know if you remember Breakbeat Science, the message
Yep.
board.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a huge, this is the only like real bad experience I think I ever had.
Hmm.
There was a huge, like, he started this huge campaign against me because I broke up with him and moved away to do other shit, whatever. And I don't even remember how he started it or what, but he kind of like started this huge thing against me. And at the time, I had moved out here. I'd been out here for a while, and I started dating someone else who was Assassin. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember him from
Yep.
Sounds for Recording. So he and I were together for like 6 years or a couple, whatever. But he not only campaigned against me, but also against Eric, but it was mostly against me. And it got to the point where, like, I just ignored it because, what am I gonna do? Like, go on fucking
Yeah.
line and just like argue with people who are like calling me a slut? Like, what's the fucking point of that? Slut shame me? Go ahead, I don't give a fuck. So like, whatever. I'll just keep living my fucking life in California. What? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It got to the point where they were trying to get people to not book me for shows. It was so ridiculous, and all because of a breakup. Like, it was just really dumb. Anyway, I'm not going to say the other person who was involved in it because it happened over 20 years ago and it doesn't matter. But there was
Right.
another very big DJ who sort of jumped in on the slut shaming, and I don't know why. I'll tell you after I talk. It was. Um,
Ugh.
but it was so ridiculous because it's a message forum for talking about music. Like, why are you using this platform to like get aggro and air your personal like bullshit about someone you're mad at? It doesn't have anything to do with music, let's just say.
Right.
Just because I'm a
Right.
DJ doesn't mean it's okay for you to go on a platform, and also that I'm a woman. So basically it was this whole slut shaming thing, like I'm only getting gigs because I'm a female, and I'm only
Yep.
getting gigs because of I have tits, whatever. And
Right. Right.
it was sort of that like mob mentality thing where like one person started it and then another DJ decided to come in and start doing the same. and like backing that. And then all of these guys in this chat room were just fucking going bananas. And finally, Breakbeat Science came in and they were like, yo, this is a music message board. This stops now or you are banned forever. Shut the fuck up. Like they just like shut it down. They were like, what is happening right now? Because it was like out of control. It was like almost a week long of like this crazy shit. I'm curious to see if it actually still exists online. Probably. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, anyway, Breakbeat Science stepped in and shut it down and were like, you're all fucking stupid. Please stop. And that was like my only really, I guess, bad experience as a female. Like, and you know, I'm sure, you know, as far as like harassment goes, that was the worst I've ever experienced. But, you know, it didn't really change anything. It didn't deter anyone from booking me. It didn't, like in the end, it just makes the person doing it look like a fool anyway, right? Like, you just look like a child. You're just like, what's the point? We're all adults here, right? Like, just move on with your life.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. The internet in the 90s, man. Like,
I'll tell you later, Wes.
oh, man.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, like that, others, aside from that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being a female in a male-dominated job, because DJing is fun, but, you know, it is a job at times. And, you know, we all have to deal with the same types of things no matter where we work or what we do, right? Like, that treatment isn't just on one type of job solely. It's kind of everywhere always.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you do. It's it's like the Groundhog Day of life if you're female, you know?
Yeah. Well, and, you know, being fair, you know, some of that is a very common human thing, which is someone is having success that I'm not. And so I'm not a fully realized person. And so instead of being able to be happy for them, I think they're stealing it from me. And so, you know, I'm going to complain. And so, but sometimes the way that's done with women can be different.
Hold on, Clearwater is in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, he just showed up. He just
What's
showed up.
I was just talking about you, Clearwater.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Apparently.
Go
ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, Clearwater, I was just talking about what an amazing roommate you were and how you had like the best record collection that anyone's ever had of all time, ever in drum and bass, and how I used to play your records all the time at home. That's all I was saying. It was all good.
She said that you would let her go through your records, and she said it was like going through Discogs, basically, which you know sounded pretty freaking dope.
He had all the records no one had.
Yes, yeah, all of the one-off from the UK. Good luck, America, trying to find it.
Good luck, America, with any of it, really, at that time.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah. Yeah. But so speaking of being a woman, being a woman DJ in Texas, you know, again, we were very sort of isolated, but that's kind of how the American scenes were anyway, because we're so spread out. But one of the reasons I was really excited to have you come on is because of your involvement with Ground Score in San Francisco, who threw Eclectic. And I'll tell you, man, as a woman DJ, I was so inspired by that, especially having started my own, you know, female collective. And so, and you talking about your friend who became your roommate, who was this trance DJ, but who sort of, you know, you're not getting it elsewhere. And she takes you and is like, I want to teach you about this. Like, I'm really curious to hear more about that. Not that Eclectic is only important because it was run by women. That's like utterly beside the point.
Right. So my life with them, with San Francisco, so I met them when I was still living in Florida, and I was playing, you know, playing it during Winter Music Conference at whatever little shows were going on, and I met Dina Marie, Dee Marie. Um, let's see, who else did I meet at the time? Laura and Ed UFO. I
Mm-hmm.
basically met that whole crew. They were out playing some shows, and we became really tight. And they invited me to come play at Eclectic. And so I flew out to San Francisco. I stayed in the house that they all lived in. It was like Abstract, UFO, Sage. Who else lived in that house? Maybe Chris Echo lived in that house at the time. Basically, the whole crew lived in this huge Victorian house on Haight Street.
Nice.
and
Nice.
and
Before the .com real
yeah,
estate insanity.
right. So basically, they invited me to come there. I stayed with them. It was I think Assassin might have played that time with me too, but we both went up there. And then I just got to the point where they would invite me to come back, and I was like playing there like every month almost. And it like Eclectic, like as a vibe, as a night, one of the like San Francisco was probably one of the best drum and bass cities in the country at the time. Like I played all over, and like San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco every time killed it. I don't know if it was just the vibe, just pure vibes every time
Mm-hmm.
playing there. And it was my favorite club night to play at, and it still is. There's not much that's come close to like that vibe. Just so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just like all the females and all the DJs, not just the women, but like all the DJs involved. Everybody was so supportive of everybody, and not just the DJs, but the people who came to the night. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
just such a great vibe. All those people,
Mm-hmm.
I missed it.
Well, and very, very famously, at
Mhm.
least in one spot by the DJ booth, but it sort of, I think, traveled, was the sort of eclectic motto of was it "fuck off and dance"?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah. They had a bunch of stickers, and I remember I took the "fuck off and dance" stickers and like stuck them to my headphones on each side.
Yes.
So if people were trying to talk to me, I'd be like, no, not right now. I'm DJing. Yeah. They had
Yeah.
that. They had their little ground score stickers and "fuck off and dance." Can't remember what the other one was. They had another one, but I remember they had the shirts, which I still
Hmm.
have one of the shirts. Yeah, it was just a good time.
Yeah. It it seems like it was, one of those sort of really special,
Hmm.
like everybody was in it together. I mean, shoot, all living in the same house, even,
Oh
and
my god.
like all pushing this thing,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
surrounded by a community that was excited
Right.
about it too. Like,
Right. Yeah, that was the thing. Like, I hadn't experienced a lot of here in the U.S. Right.
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
we kind of were talking about this a little bit earlier about how people were when they come to shows and they would just stand there.
Yeah,
They would
yes,
stand there like this, like, okay. Yeah, exactly, like that.
yes,
But
yes.
it wasn't like that there. It was like
Hmm.
everyone just would dance. It didn't matter who was playing.
Yep.
I kind of like the same vibes that you have when you go to London and go to a show. No one gives a shit. They just want to go there and dance and have a good time. It doesn't matter
Right.
who's playing. I have a lot of people like train spotting, like what record is she playing? What record is he playing? That's a whole
Yes.
other conversation.
Oh God, yes,
Uh,
yes.
Curly, can we take a? I gotta run to the bathroom and
Yeah.
go pee.
Go, 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 go,
It's the
go,
prosecco. I'll be right back.
go. Blame it on the prosecco. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, so boy, A1, you showed up at just the right time. Also, you and I have talked about this before. I think you have like a billion names. It actually was when Sensenet was on here. Um, she called you Clearwater, but didn't say it was you, and I was like trying to follow. Um, but yeah, I'm really glad you. I'm really glad you made it. It was neat to hear Roxanne talk about sort of that time, when you were her roommate, and just and the other was it Eddie Mendez? She said that you guys did you had your radio show, and 50 used to come and MC for you guys. Okay, Clearwater is your real name. Got it. Frank Mendez. Okay, cool. DMZ radio. Love that. Love that. Back in the 90s, even in America on the radio. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Um, so yeah, guys, do you have any other questions for Roxanne? Um, oh, okay. So you Escape Velocity says that Frank
Ah,
and he
hi.
yeah, Clearwater's telling us about he and Frank started their first label together
Hmm.
while you were living with them.
Yes. Evil
Yeah.
base. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
he is very sweetly saying there's so much he missed in your life and he wants to catch up with you.
Oh, I know. We have to like have a conversation outside of the Twitch world or the internet
Yes.
world. Yeah,
Yes.
sure, we'll do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Clearwater.
someday when we can get together outside of the internet.
I know.
Um
Yeah, soon, soon, hopefully soon.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so obviously San Francisco was a super vibey place to
Mhm,
be at
mhm.
that point, but you were playing all over the US?
Yes, and then that kind of like at that time was when I started getting into production too, and like doing music. So there was eclectic, and then there was Honeybee and Seafood's label. Why can't I think of it? Wes, help me out here, somebody. I can't remember what it's called.
The only one I know out of San Francisco was Green Label. That was the first
Yeah,
label I ever bought a Caliber tune on.
right. Okay, so they were. It was Honeybee and Seafood that were doing that record label together, I believe. Um, so they had asked me to remix a thing, but this was like kind of towards the end of them sort of kind of not doing things anymore. It sort of fell apart. I don't remember what year that was. It was probably like 2001-ish, 2002. I don't know.
Mhm.
I had done so. The first tune that I did was for Hive. Well, it wasn't really for Hive. I just did. I wrote it to, and it was like the first one, like real one I'd ever done. Like I've fucked around, but like not really done a complete tune. So I did one, thinking, whatever. I'll just play it. I'll press it on a dub plate. I'll just play it. Whatever. Who cares? And then I sent it to some people, and at the time, Hive was doing his label, which before it was Violence, it was oh my god, what was it called? Whatever he had, it was called something different before it was called Violence. This was like in the earlier Concrete Jungle days when he was doing Concrete Jungle here in LA. And
Mhm.
so he like hit me up and he was like, "Hey, I want to put that tune out." And I was like, "Really? Are you sure?" I mean, okay. So he ended up wanting to do a split release with me and Laura Sage. So one
Mhm.
side would be Sage's tune and the other side would be my tune.
Mhm.
And so gave him the tune. It was all set, good to go. And then so we got test presses of it, and I think there was a small amount. There was only like 10 or something, maybe. I'm pretty sure there was less than 20. It might have been 20.
Mhm.
And so we get all the test presses. Everything sounds great. It's fucking fantastic. We're like, woo, record's coming out. Then when the record actually got pressed, they made a mistake at the pressing plant and pressed somebody else's tune in place of mine. I can't remember who it was. You're like,
No. No.
like, I don't know how many boxes of records it was. Um, like I can laugh about it now. I mean, what was I gonna do? Like we can just
Well,
like nothing. Just be glad you have your test presses that are like fine.
yes. 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 Oh man. Okay, Clearwater says it was Vortex Recordings.
Thank you, Clearwater. Yes, it was Vortex. Um,
Oh
yeah,
man,
so
that's rough. Ooh.
it was pressed wrong, and then I remember Hive being like, "Yes," and he was pissed, as you can imagine, because all the money he spent on pressing them, and I don't remember. I want to say it wasn't Peter Kay. It might have been even one of Mike's tunes that ended up on it. Hive. It might have been one of his. Well, I don't know how that mistake happened. I think he was pressing multiple records, and it got mixed up. And yeah, so in the end of that, like, I think everybody thought, because the label said my name, and I think everybody thought that that tune was my tune, but then I was like, no, it's a other.
Oh God. Oh God.
Oh
So
yeah,
they
yeah,
not
I
only
know.
did they press it, but the label was
The label
on
had my
it.
name on it.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Oh,
I wonder if I
I
have any.
just never thought that far ahead. Oh,
Yeah, so Laura's side was fine, but mine was like someone else's tune. It said my name.
oh my God. That's a
Oh man,
horrible day for you and that other person. Oh
it
my
was
God.
probably more of a horrible day for Mike because he had to pay for all those records that I
Yeah.
pressed.
Uh,
So then, like, all there was the test presses, which I think there was such a small batch of them that whoever got them, great, you had the actual record. I think I had like, I think he gave me like 3 or 4. So there were people that were like, online. I'd have people hit me up and be like, "Can I please buy one of those from you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead." Um, Not that long ago, like maybe 5 years back, some random person hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you happen to have like a copy of like a good copy of the test press or whatever? I'll like pay you good money for it. I really, really want that record." And I was like, "All right, why not? Here you go." What am I gonna do? I don't need 2 copies of my own record. It doesn't matter as long as I have one. I don't give a shit. I have it on dubplate too. Who cares? I'm not playing that record out anymore. Whatever. Probably never
right.
play it again. Oh
Um,
man.
so was it good money, Roxanne?
I
Did he
think I
paid
paid
you?
like $50 for it. I was like, really? Okay, I guess. Sure, why not?
I mean, that's not that great. Not for vinyl. Holy shit.
But for my record, I'm nobody special.
You're one of a kind
I'm special in
tied.
my own right, but like in the drum and bass world, like, whatever. I'm not
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, sure, dude, do you want to give me money for that? And here you go. I could do them for less, to be honest. Um, yeah, I'm not very good at like hustling people for money. I'm a nice
Yeah.
person.
But very good.
Like value yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You
goodness.
know what though? That is I think that's such a artist thing. It's such a human thing, you know. Um
Right.
it's it's like one of those things where it's like when you do something, it doesn't necessarily seem like that big a deal to you because it was you that did it. Like, well, I
Right.
just
Yeah.
did it, you know.
It's kind of like
But
writing your own. I mean, I don't know. This is just me. I know we joke about this in Paul's chat all the time about people who write their own like bios and shit. Like I,
yes.
I'm, I'm actually a really good writer. I have a master's degree. I have to fucking write all the time.
Hmm.
I hate writing about myself. Like I
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
it. So I guess like maybe I approach, anything, writing anything, so to speak. I guess
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
when it's like me, music is a representation of me too. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Oh yeah, even Clearwater says he always had somebody else write his bios.
yeah, like that
Um
old ass bio that's on my Facebook that I should probably take down. Like an old manager wrote that. That's like totally outdated, and I always forget it's there. I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably change that.
yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I found one from 20 years ago. It was a that thing remembered more than I did. That's for sure. Um
Right.
so speaking of Paul,
Yeah.
where you and I met, the great
Mhm.
El Hornet from
Mhm.
Pendulum, the Mighty Pendulum, uh, who is streaming, and it's an amazing stream. But clearly, from the stream, you guys know each other. So, how did you guys meet? Was this another WMC thing?
Um, I met Paul at Respect.
Okay.
In the early days of Respect, would have been we both played. We didn't play on the same night, but we played in the same month. So Respect released a monthly flyer, and
Hmm.
I posted it not that long ago. I have to go have a dig through my box of flyers, but yeah, he came through and played at Respect, and that was the first time I met him. And I think I was like, I used to just like drink hella wine. That was like my thing at the time, and I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Roxanne. How are you?" Okay, bye. And then like we weren't friends until like many years later, actually. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
I met him for the first time at Respect, which I vaguely remember. He remembers it. I don't really remember it that much. And then we started talking on Twitter, actually.
Mhm.
He made some comment to me about a mix I did or something, and he had made some comment about like I used to put out mixtapes and mix CDs, like we all did back in the day, and
Right.
he made some comment. He made some comment like, "Oh, I wish you would put out a new mix," and I was like, "Huh? Who is this person talking to me?" Oh yeah, hey, what's up? And then we just started talking, and then we became really good friends over the years, and eventually we were playing at shows together, and I mean, yeah, like it's probably been of like I would say a real friendship, probably like 8 years. You
Nice.
know, yeah. So a
Nice.
bunch of shows, travel. I've played in Denver with him. I played here in LA with him. Um, I went and saw him in Tokyo. Actually, that was the last time I saw him. I
Mhm.
usually see him every year. He'd always come to LA. It's like his jam to come here. He loves LA. And so he'd always come and play, and then all the homies, we'd all get together and go see him and have a time. And yeah, I went to Tokyo. That was for a Pendulum Trinity. That wasn't like the only reason why I went. I went because the flights were only $400 round trip, and I was like, he said he was playing, and I was just like, I'm just gonna see, because I love Japan. I love Tokyo. I've been before. And I was like, I'm just gonna see how much flights are. And when I saw that they were only $400, I was like, I'm coming to Japan. And I have a friend that lives there, so I stayed with my friend and got to hang out with her a bunch. I got to hang out with Boris a bunch. Netsky played at that same show. It was Ultra Tokyo. So it
Mhm.
was Pendulum Trinity, it was Netsky, and like a bunch of other EDM things. It was like a weird mixed bag. Um, but yeah, I spent my whole trip either hanging out with Paul or hanging out with Boris, and it was nice just to be able to see my friends and hang out. Glad I went
Yeah.
because here we are, over a year later, and no travel. No
Haven't seen
travel.
anybody.
Nope. I miss my
Yeah.
friends.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
But yeah.
so I can't believe it's already 8:20. And I
Yeah.
have to ask you about this
Yeah.
before we end up like running out of time.
Mhm.
Okay, so you already mentioned you have a master's in English, right? Or in literature, writing,
Oh,
whatever.
I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology, and I
Mhm.
have a master's degree in biological anthropology with a focus on forensic anthropology.
Yes, which leads into the fact that you are a intern with it's the LA County Coroner's Office, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
For forensic anthropology.
Yeah. So I work with the forensic anthropologist that does the cases for LA County whenever that's needed,
Mhm.
and she has interns, me being one of them,
Mhm.
that come in and help her. Basically, we help to try and solve cases of people who are unidentifiable. So that's
Right.
what the forensic. So just an overview of forensic anthropology, really quick, so you guys
Please.
know what the fuck I'm
Please.
talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
So forensic anthropology is a study of the human skeleton for the law. So we use our anthropology skills, and we use osteology to determine who a decedent might be that's a Jane Doe or a John Doe. So if
Mhm.
the body is found and they are no fingerprints can be taken, um, they can't be recognizable because they're too far decomposed, that kind
Mhm.
of thing, then it becomes an anthropology case, and then we come in and um, usually it's not a skeleton, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Usually we have to get to, this is going to be gross. I don't want to freak everybody out. This is not, now we're switching into the dark side of this podcast, of this
You
talk right now.
you you motherfuckers like this hard music. If you this is your content warning right now. You
Content
can't
warning.
handle Yeah, yeah.
Can't
Content
handle the
warning.
truth.
My channel is already marked not safe for work and not for kids. So if you can't handle frank discussions about
Dead people.
bodies,
Yeah.
people that have
Not,
been,
not safe.
harmed, and potentially gross
Um,
smells and stuff like that,
oh,
then
that's the worst
yeah.
part.
And this is a good
Yeah,
time for you to exit, okay? We're gonna have like a
yeah.
CSI
Trigger
exit the
warning.
real thing. Yeah, this is your trigger
um,
warning. Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So let's say it's a skeleton. I'll go into the other gross shit in a second. So if a skeleton comes, I'll just talk about. I had a case where there was a skeleton found in a house as a complete skeleton, which is rare.
Wow.
You don't usually find it. If somebody's a complete skeleton, they've been dead for a very long time. It
Okay.
takes depending on the circumstances, it takes 4 to 6 months for a body to completely skeletonize. That means
Wow.
you completely decompose. There's like levels of decomposition. Skeletonization is the last one. If there's steps, if there's four, I think there's 5 steps. Skeletonization is the last one. So what we do, if there is a skeleton, we look at the skeleton and we determine what the height, so their stature. We determine their ancestry, so we can tell you if they were Asian, white, Hispanic, Native American, etc. And then we look at pathology, which means we look to see what types of diseases they may have had when they were alive. A lot of times you can see that in the skeleton. We also look to see other types of pathology, like if they broke bones in their life, and so healed fractures, hardware, like if they had like a knee replacement or shoulder,
Right.
and something along those lines.
Right.
Which are things that can help identify a person also if they have hardware on them.
Right.
Um, we also look to see if they're male or female. So all of these things are things you can tell by looking at a skeleton. It's kind of amazing the things you can tell by looking at a skeleton. Like,
Yeah.
I always find it funny, like now that I know these things, there's like that, I don't know, it's not really a meme, but there's like a thing where it's like, it shows all these skeletons and they're like, oh, all of these skeletons, like we're all the same underneath. Like, yes, we're all primates, we're all humans, but like our skeletons are not the same. Like,
Right.
I can look at a skull and I can tell you a lot about a person, like down to their ancestry. And
Hmm.
ancestry, there are markers on skeletons that tell you if someone was Native American, if someone was Hispanic. There's all these different things that are passed down genetically, that tell you like who they are. So yeah, that's
That's so
largely
cool.
what I have to do. The gross part about my job is about 90% of the time, it's not a skeleton, it's a decomposing body, and we have to dissect it and get the bones out.
Hmm.
And it's hard work,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sometimes it can take a week of going back in there to finish the job. It's like 10 hours, and then, okay, we're all dying, let's go home and come back in 2 days and try to finish,
You
depending.
mean you don't just in a 42-minute episode throw some beetles in there and
I mean,
they
look,
clean it off for you, and then
I
when the
recommended
when the
that they
beetles
bring
are
the
done, the
beetles.
bones are white and dry.
The beetles are actually a great way to do it. I would love it if we had flesh-eating beetles. Oh my God, it would save me so much time
Right?
and backaches. But
And they're happy, right?
yeah, but the thing is they're called domestic beetles. If they get out, they're like really harmful to the environment, and it's not good. So the coroner's
Mhm.
office is not having it. The other thing we could do is have an incubator, and the incubator would make things go really fast.
Mhm.
Um, and I think they're getting us one, but we've been waiting forever. In the meantime, we have to do everything the hard way. So we
Yeah.
do what's called maceration, which is to remove all the muscle and all the flesh and tendons and everything. And then we have to, don't freak out, we have to put all the bones into a pot of hot water and just Dawn dish soap and let it sit for a few days to get all the flesh off. And then, like, we have to literally be able to look at clean bone because we have to see, like, if, like, let's say this person was murdered and there's hairline fractures, you're not going to see that if there's still flesh and bone and tendon on them. So
Right. Right. Uh,
yeah.
okay, so Clearwater actually had I say actually like it's a surprise that you would have a good question. That's not what I mean. Like, in fact, he has a good question. That I know it's terrible. Don't hate me.
No,
I
no.
didn't mean it like that. Um, he says, so the remaining flesh and organs are largely not of use in your work.
Oh, okay. So if I'm doing a case, the body is already in far into decomposition. So
Right.
it's either mummified, and we just have to remove mummified skin, which is basically like tough, dry,
Hmm.
or like there is no organs. The organs have already liquefied. Usually, when like in the stages of decomposition, you start liquefying from the inside out. That's
Hmm.
essentially how it works. So
Hmm.
by the time we see a body, I don't think I've ever had a case personally where there's ever been organs still intact. Maybe
Interesting.
kind of like, yeah, no, like maybe stomach, but no, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already like in the deep that's the reason why too that they give it to anthropology, because a doctor, a pathologist can't do an autopsy on a body that is decomposed because there's no organs. At that
Right.
point, there's no way for them to be able to do an investigation to see what caused her death because everything's already liquefied, everything's already rotted and gone, or mostly gone.
Right.
So that's why
Right.
the only other option is to look at the bones once there's no organs. If that makes sense.
Right. You're the last hope, basically.
Right. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
Aside from DNA, but they won't do. They'll have anthropology do their thing first before they resort to that because DNA is really, really expensive
Right. Okay. And takes a long time.
and takes a long time.
Um, uh, so, uh, so obviously from what we talked about, with the bones, you're looking for some kind of identifying markers,
Right.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, things like you can tell from looking at them, their height and, male or female and some of their ancestry, things like that. Maybe if they had injuries or, those kinds of things. How do you get more details to like find out not just this was a Hispanic
Mm-hmm.
female that was like probably 5'5"? Um, how do, how are
Um,
you able to find out more specifically like who she might have been?
well, at that, so we do what we call biological profile. We tell the
Mhm.
coroner's office. We look at all these things. And we say, okay, this is a female. Usually the age range is quite big because, this is not TV. We're not going to be able to give you an exact age of anyone. We can
Right.
look at an overall picture and be like, okay, the age range is 25 to 60, which is crazy, I know, but that's kind of sometimes how it is. And then we can look at all of these other factors. We look at her bone, like what condition are her bones in? Does she have osteoporosis? Does she have osteoarthritis? Does she have
Mhm.
bone fusion? Like all of these things, if she's younger, she's probably not going to have any of those things. Only
Mhm.
someone over 40 is going to have those things. So then
Mhm.
that's, and we also like, we'll do things like we look at two different ways to do age. So we look at the pelvis and we look
Mhm.
at the ribs. And so like the wear on the pubic symphysis, so like where the pubic bone meets like this, the pubic
Mhm.
symphysis is this part right here. And based on the wear of that, it tells you age. It's a pretty
Okay.
it's a pretty good marker of age. And then the ribs give you another version. So you look at both ranges and
Mhm.
try to figure out what the median age is based on those two. And then and then we look at, okay, well, are their bones really brittle? Do they have osteoarthritis? Like it's when you see like lipping in the bones or like extra growths around the bone. You can tell when someone has arthritis by looking at it like
Mhm.
that. So we look at all
Interesting.
these factors. It's like not just one thing is going to give you an answer. You usually have to look at the culmination of everything and try to make an educated guess on what it would be based on the
Mhm.
science of all these other things, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm. So how did you get interested in this? I mean,
I watched a
you've
lot of
gone
forensic
from you've
files.
yeah, you've gone from School of the Performing Arts to bartender to DJ, traveling all over the place and bartender, and
Mhm.
one day you wake up and you're like, I saw an episode of Bones last night and I want to be a forensic anthropologist. How
What's
did
it
this happen?
asking? Wes is asking, do you see saw marks asking for a friend?
Yes.
Actually, there's a whole science to saw marks, like the type of saw, all of there's somebody who specializes it, and he's created this whole chart. And we have, like, when we teach it, we bust out this like saw board that has all the different types of saw markings, and we teach it in
Nice.
forensic anthropology. So there, yes.
Back to the
Sorry.
drawing board, Wes. I would take a saw out of your plans.
Yeah, don't use a saw. You're gonna get caught. Sorry, you were asking a question when he said that.
How did you decide this was the thing you were going to pursue?
I've kind of always been interested in it. I definitely, obviously, was like a watcher of true crime. I was always super into true crime, and I kind of gotten to a point in my life, like, aside from, well, I guess DJing kind of got to a point too. I'll say all of the things I was doing. I was working like a retail job, like we do, and I made pretty good money, and I had good insurance, and I fucking hated it, like, with a passion. Like, I was like, I don't want to talk to people anymore. Like, fuck this job. Like, I just, that's the best way I can describe how I felt at the time, and probably how I still feel. And so I was just like, what can I do that I'm passionate about, and that I'm very interested in, but also, like, it's helping people, because I wanted to do something maybe that was a little bit more meaningful. And so at the time, I had a boyfriend who was in school, and he was like an English major, something totally different. And he was like, you should just go back to school. And I was like, oh, I'm too old to go back to school. No way, blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, dude, they'll give you money. You can go back to school. They'll, like, give you a bunch of loans and shit. Like, just go back. And so I kind of looked into it, and I was like, okay, well, if I was going to get into, like, that realm of study, I looked into being a pathologist, and that meant going and getting a medical degree. And I was like, absolutely not. I'll be 50 by the time I graduate, or older. No.
Right.
Because I was already 35 at the time, or approaching 35. And so I kind of stumbled upon forensic anthropology, and I was like, oh, this is it. Because I knew there were programs. I knew about the forensic anthropology program that I went into eventually. And this was 10 years before I did it. And so I started, and I was a high school dropout. Like, I was not a school person, at least not when I was younger. It was different when you're in your 30s, because I was like, I'm ready. I want to go do this thing it's cool, and I'm ready to do it and learn, and I'm here for it. It's very different when you go in with that versus, like, I hate school and why am I here? When you're younger.
Yeah. Choice versus force.
Yeah, exactly. So, I signed up to go to community college, and I literally started from, like, the bottom of the barrel, because all I had was a GED. So, and I think I only did school up until I was 16. I dropped out when I was 16. So I was terrible at math. Writing I was good at, weirdly. I don't know. I mean, I was already older too, so it wasn't like I had never written anything before or whatever. I had not written, like, a paper, but you know what I mean? I wasn't a dummy, but I was a dummy when it came to math. I went to community college. I set out to get, like, a social science AA, associate's degree. And it took me a while because I was working full time, but I did it. I got my associates, and then I transferred to Cal State LA with the intention of hopefully getting into that forensic anthropology program. Like, the whole time, that's all I wanted to do. And so I sought out that is my advisor. Before she was my advisor, this doctor, her name's Dr. Miller. She was the forensic anthropologist for LA County Coroner's Office. And she was just really dope. So I was like, I'm going to go meet Dr. Miller. I was just an undergrad. I wasn't even, like, there yet. I wasn't anywhere near there yet. But I went, I met her, and I asked her if I could volunteer in her lab. And she let me volunteer. She liked me. Her master's, like, her graduate students liked me, and they all sort of, like, took me in, and they started teaching me like how to tell the bones, and like I started learning it as an undergrad. And then
Nice.
eventually, when it came time, which was, undergrad was 2 years, so I spent a lot of time like getting to know her, working a lot, doing everything I could for her, basically. And then, yeah, she basically accepted me into her program, and yeah, like the rest is history, I guess. Went into the
Yeah.
program, did my thing.
Yeah.
The internship was something also that I had to work really hard for. Like you couldn't even apply unless you had straight A's in her classes, which that
Wow.
makes sense. So I had to
Yeah.
have an A in osteology. I had to have an A in forensic anthropology. I had to have like anything forensic anthro that she taught. Like you had to get an A, or she wouldn't even
Right.
consider taking you.
Wow.
And then, unfortunately, like when I got into the program, right, about maybe 6 months in, she got sick. Unfortunately, she has breast cancer. And
Mhm.
so she told us she was retiring. And we were like, what? Oh no. Well, oh no, you have breast cancer. And also, oh no, we're losing our advisor.
Right.
She gave us the option. She's like, just stay and I'll do my best to be here for you, even though I'm going to be dealing with this. She's okay now, by the way. She's okay.
That's
She's
good.
retired.
That's
She's
good.
retired now. She's been through surgery. She's been through chemo and radiation. She went through it all when we were there with her. Um,
Mhm.
and she did cases as long as she could at the corners. And then another doctor came and took over, who's also lovely, and I love her. But yeah, so she did that for a while, and it was a little bit of a struggle. I had to do a lot of. It was because she was ill. It was a lot of like I just got to figure it out on my own, which
Mhm.
thankfully, because I was a lot older than the other students, I was good at that. I already was living my life doing that for a long time before school.
Right.
So
Right.
I had no problem. I was like, cool, I'll figure it out. And I just sought out other professors to help me, and I figured it out, made my way through, got into the internship. I graduated. Here I am now. And I got really lucky, and I still, so that internship was only a year. But because
Mhm.
she retired and there was no more forensic anthropology program, she was like, will you guys stay on and just keep doing cases? And now it's like 3 years later, and we're still doing cases, which is,
They need those interns. They need that help.
they need the help. Yeah. So I'm still doing
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And, the bodies don't talk to you. So,
But they do, though.
I mean,
I
well,
mean, not
what I
like,
mean
actually.
what I mean is it's not like retail where you like don't want to
Oh,
talk
I
to
mean,
people anymore. Like,
that's kind of like my funny, like running joke, but it's like not a joke. Like I
yeah,
went into this to deal with, like, this is my way of helping people, but it's like helping the dead speak because they can't speak for themselves. But then I also don't have to worry
right.
about them speaking to me.
Yes, exactly, exactly. You
But yeah,
give the voiceless a voice and they
right,
never harass you with it. That's
exactly.
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, uh so there's someone here I think that knows you. Lily,
Oh,
I'm
Lily,
gonna I'm
hi.
gonna butcher this. Yeah.
Lily,
Yeah.
yes,
She
wait.
she came in, I think, right as you were talking about math. And
Oh, she knows my struggle.
she said, remember doing math in the car after respect?
Yeah. Oh my God. I have so many stories of doing like homework in the middle of parties. Hilarious. I remember like I was playing at some radio show up in like the Hollywood Hills or something ridiculous like that. And like it was like me, Cyrena, it was a bunch of girls actually. It was me, Cyrena, Eva, and it was all the breaks DJs.
Mhm.
And I remember playing, and as soon as I got done, I was like, I got a test tomorrow, I got to study. And I literally like just sat down in the corner of the room and like pulled out my books and like put on headphones and was like, I'm studying, leave me alone. And people would always be like, what
Fuck
the
off
fuck
and
are you
DJ.
doing? Every time. Oh yeah,
Oh,
notoriously always did that.
oh man. Well, that's a tough gig to try and be a student
Hmm.
and have this thing that takes up a lot of your life and it's all at night. Like,
Yeah.
oof.
I actually
Yeah.
quit DJing. I kind of left this part out. I quit DJing for 2 years when I first started school because I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I need to like just like tunnel vision this because it was my first time going back to school, not being good at it. At least I didn't think I would be, just like it was a new territory, uncharted territory, if you will. So
Mhm.
I needed to focus. I was kind of like burned out on traveling. I didn't really want to do that anymore. It wasn't when DJing becomes not fun. It's like, you know, not really here
Mhm.
for the money. I like already had a job. I was
Right.
like, the money is nice. Don't get me wrong, and I think DJs need to get paid. But I mean, it was starting to become a thing where it was like flying I would do a tour, and it would be like a million cities in a week, like playing all these different things, getting on a train, getting on a plane, getting on a bus. I remember being in New York and playing a bunch of shows and then having to get on a bus and go to Buffalo was the most miserable thing ever. I just,
Oh
but
God.
yeah, I got all kinds of stories we don't have time for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I basically was like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back from DJing and like not do any gigs. I would only play one gig a year, and it was Respect. Like
Mhm.
that was it. It was local. It was still a good thing. It was still my homies, and
Mhm.
yeah. So I did that for a couple years, and then I really missed it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start DJing again. But it took me a while to like get into school and like really get a grasp of it and feel comfortable, and then also missing the music and like not being burned out anymore to go back
Yeah.
and like revisit that.
Yeah. You had like a palate cleanse,
Right.
like
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Shake off the frustrating things about it and yeah.
Right.
Get back to the good stuff. Well, I just have to post this comment up on the screen. Lily is mad proud of you.
Oh, oh, I love her.
That's amazing.
Thank
I
you.
love that.
Lily was one of my biggest cheerleaders. She always tried to help me. I love
Nice.
her.
Very nice. I love that. So what has been like the most surprising thing to you about learning anthropology and like doing forensic anthropology?
Fuck, man, what has it been? I mean, I well, the first time. Oh, so okay. When I first went into doing it, I had a lot of like doubts, I guess. Maybe doubts in myself because, like I said, I wasn't great at math. Like I could just skate by, but it took me a lot of hard work to get through it. A lot, like living in a math lab with tutors every single day. Like it was rough.
Hmm.
And so going into forensics, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to be good at math. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, you can only fake it till you make it so much. You cannot do that with math or science, really. They're just like
Right,
very
right.
matter of fact. Um, so when I arrived at Cal State LA, I remember being like, I was almost not going to go into it because I was intimidated, like that I wouldn't do well.
Hmm.
And um, I remember meeting some of Dr. Miller's students who were already graduate students, and it was my first couple. That's my first week at school, and they were like, "Oh, we're not good at math either. Like, you should still do it." I'm like, "What? Yeah, don't worry about it." And it turned out I
Nice.
actually needed. I mean, you have to use some math, obviously, but it's like algebra, which I can do. It's fine. So yeah, like basic algebra,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So yeah, just basic math was all you really needed outside of algebra, maybe a tiny bit of calculus, but not really. And that's it. And we only use it for the stature for height.
Hmm.
We'd use a formula to figure out what it is. You take the
Nice.
measurements, you plug it into a formula. You could use a calculator, whatever. That's what
Yeah.
math really is in real life. Just use a calculator. you, don't,
That's
you don't have to
man,
be a
that's
math
what
wizard,
that's what Google is, man. Like you don't know the
right?
answer to something?
Okay,
Get on
what's
it. Like
centimeters? What's inches to centimeters? I'm gonna Google it. I don't
Fahrenheit,
know.
I have a Fahrenheit to Celsius app, man.
I
Like,
need that.
because with this Twitch thing, I talk to people, that like I've seen the math. I had to do it in school, and no way, no way. Thank
Yeah,
you,
no.
app.
Yeah, I mean that's the reality of math in real life, right? You just use your technology to do it for you.
Yeah,
Well, so that was one of the things I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it because I thought it would be very like hard because of math. But I mean, it is hard, but for other reasons. It's very anatomy heavy. It's very science heavy. So you
mhm.
have to be. I mean, I guess I don't know if it's just because I worked very hard I had kind of started before it was time for me to start learning it. I wanted to get that like head start on learning it because learning anatomy is hard, and you have to learn the human skeleton, which is 206 bones in your body, plus some people have extra, and only have to learn the bones. I have to learn all the features. So
Oh
like
yeah.
your I don't know your ulna, which is here,
Hmm.
in the middle of your forearm, has all these features. You have to learn what all the borders are. I have to learn how to. Have to know how to tell what's left and what's right, looking at the bone.
Wow.
Um, yeah, like and so like at the coroner's office, what we do is when we have a skeleton, when we're ready to do our analysis, we have to put the skeleton in anatomical position on
Hmm.
a gurney. So that means laying it out in anatomical position, left and
Hmm.
right, every bone, down to
Hmm.
the fingers and toes, which is the hardest. Fingers and toes are always hardest. I mean, I've done it a million times. I can do it now, no problem. But
Well, there's
yeah,
so many of them.
there's so many. You have to know what the features are. There was like a lot of funny tricks that we would do to remember what they are. Like they look like things. Like
Okay.
like for example, your middle finger.
Hmm.
These are your metacarpals and your
Hmm.
carpals, right? So
Okay.
your metacarpals are here.
Right.
Phalanges, carpals are in your
Yes.
wrist.
Okay.
Your metacarpals have defining features that tell you which is which. How do you know what one is? How do you know what two is? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One is your thumb, five is your pinky. And
Hmm.
so the middle finger has what they call, like, I have one. I should probably go get it and show you guys if you like a lesson. It has like a little piece that sticks down, and when you flip it upside down, it looks like it's flipping you off. And so that's how I always knew it was the middle finger.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's fantastic. The middle
Little
finger
things,
gives you middle finger.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's just
That's
little things like
amazing.
that for all the bones that we would kind of like name them and do all these little things to try to remember.
I blew right past this, but Wes is spot on. He says, "You have someone else's middle finger at home."
Yes, I do.
Oh, oh, that's the best. Someone you know?
No,
Kidding, I'm
that would
kidding, I'm
be
kidding.
that would be unethical, guys. No, I have a whole collection of animal and a little bit of human. Human bones are harder to come by, obviously, unless they're a
Mhm.
lot of people donate their bodies to science. I'm trying to put together a collection. So when I teach, I have a collection for teaching, essentially.
Mhm.
So I have a couple of
Speak,
human bones, but yeah.
Speaking of teaching, Lily
Mhm.
said that she uses your master's thesis to
Oh my
teach
God, that's right. How is
with.
that going, Lily?
Yeah,
I haven't
and
gotten an
that
update on
that your
that.
in-text citations are something to behold.
Well, it's a thesis that they wouldn't
Oh,
even have got past the university if it wasn't. It was a lot of
there
work,
it is.
that thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she asked me for it because she's trying to teach her students how to do the citations and how to do not just in text but like the works cited, bibliography. So because otherwise,
Hmm.
if you don't have that, it's plagiarism. And as a teacher, when
Right.
I'm grading people's papers and they don't have that, it drives me crazy. I think probably
Yeah.
because I had to work so hard to put it all to put a paper together. Because
Right.
like event my thesis is now on um, like with Cal State LA, since it was a Cal State LA thesis,
Hmm.
it's basically on there for anyone to read. It's like
Right.
in their library, so anybody can
Hmm.
go online and read it. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, because of that, they require like everything has to be a certain way, and if it's not that way, they will make you go back and change it again and again and again until it's how it's supposed to be. It's
Hmm.
very. I haven't even done. I haven't been published. Like I thought about maybe doing a different version, a shorter version of my thesis, and trying to publish it, but I don't know. It seems like a lot of work that I want to do right now because I've been in school for 10 years and I'm over it.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Lily says that that it about the teaching. It really worked, and
Oh,
it
good.
was super effective.
Oh, awesome. Yay, I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
it. Yay.
So what specifically was your thesis on?
Well, because of the circumstances of my advisor retiring and not having a
Mhm.
forensic anthropologist as my advisor, I ended up still getting the forensic anthropology degree, still doing all the forensic stuff. But my thesis, I did a biocultural. So I switched to another advisor, basically.
Mhm.
So I would have guidance while I wrote my thesis because it's important. Um,
Right.
so I was going to do my thesis on plastic surgery, but I was going to look at how implants affect bone. So I was like, okay, this will be my forensic thing. And then my advisor was like, well, like this is a good idea, but you're not going to find anything at the coroner's office that has this, which I've never seen it there. I'm sure it exists. Probably
Right.
maybe more in places like Korea or Brazil where they have a higher um, degree of plastic surgery. But we're not seeing it on skeletons in LA.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
at least not yet. I'm sure we will eventually, you know. So
Yeah.
I had this other component to my thesis where I was going to do this biological portion where I talked about like the effects of bone, what it had on bone, like bone wear and infection, which happens.
Okay.
Bones get infected too. And so I was going to do that, but because I didn't have anything to actually look at in person, my advisor was like, oh, you have this cultural aspect to it where you're looking at why do people get this in the first place and what is the driving force behind the want to get plastic surgery? Why do people in LA want to get it? And so she's like, just do that. And I was like, really? I mean, it was interesting to me, very interesting. But
Right.
I was
Right.
like, are you sure? Because friend, she's like, it doesn't matter. Just write your thesis and graduate, whatever. And so I ended up going down this totally different road of, I had this friend who she owns her own practice doing like injectables. She does
Mhm.
Botox and filler, that kind of thing. And so I talked to her, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll talk." Like the whole point was like interview doctors. And she's like, "I'll
Okay.
talk to you, and I know all the doctors that'll talk to you." And so I had like an in into that world to talk to actual doctors about procedures and what their perspective was on why women and men, not just women, why the general population in Los Angeles feel the need to get plastic surgery. What are the influences? How much influence is social media? How much influence is, cultural? Just
Mhm.
in LA in particular, like this
Mhm.
cultural bubble of Los Angeles. And
Yeah.
so I took a very deep dive into, um, well, the pandemic happened, and then I couldn't go talk to anybody in person. So that
Right.
was a problem. And so I was able to get, let's see, I think I ended up getting 6 or 7 interviews. One was in person, and the rest were agreed to talk to me over the phone. And
Mhm.
so, there was nothing else I could do. I was originally supposed to do 20,
Mhm.
but I'll take what I could get. And
Right.
my committee approved it. They were like, "Look, we're in the middle of pandemic. Just take what you can get. It's fine.
Right.
We'll approve it." And
Right.
so, because usually if you're trying to use or find a statistic within something, you have to have a bigger sample. My sample was quite small, so having 20 would have been better. But whatever, pandemic. And I wrote about the pandemic in my thesis as part in my analysis too. Like, hey, this was a factor, as in why my sample was so small. But it became like a really, really interesting thing when I took a deep dive, just listening to the nurses and doctors give me their perspectives on why, like what factors influence people. It's just really interesting. Like that's a
I'm
whole other conversation.
fascinated. No, like I know. I'm sitting here
Definitely a whole
going,
other deep conversation.
yeah. I'm sitting here going, how can I tie uh uh how can I tie cultural and sociological motivations for plastic surgery to drum and bass so that I can bring Roxanne back and just talk about that.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that is fascinating, and talk about being in like a really good microcosm for that. Um,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
it was really interesting. It was interesting seeing the different perspectives with male versus female because I spoke to female and I spoke to male. I spoke to
Hmm.
two male doctors, and the rest of the people I spoke to were either nurse practitioners. Well, there was one female doctor I spoke to, and it was nurse practitioner, doctor, or registered nurse were the females that I spoke to, and then two were plastic surgeon doctors.
Hmm.
So it was interesting seeing like what one person would think versus another, and the sexes alone. Like I think it was like with some of the like the nurses I spoke to, they all kind of had like, I was looking for like the same thing, like what is the thread here amongst all of them that connects. And it was all like, okay, well, influencers and social media pushing narrative that this is normal, like that's the thread, right? Like if you
Hmm.
don't have plastic surgery, what's wrong with you?
Right. If you're not getting Botox, why are you weird?
Yeah, you're a weirdo, you've never had Botox, what?
You're
Like that was
25.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so that was really
Meanwhile, I've had this wrinkle since I was like 16. So it's what happens when you
you
make
can't do
faces.
natural
And
thing. Exactly.
oh God. Roxanne, it's 8:57. This sucks. But time change has wrecked me. Like it's like really
Oh,
only 8, but oh
I've
my
been
God, I've been
struggling
getting
every
up so
morning.
early.
I
I want to
know.
know where the protest is for to abolish daylight savings time, because
Let's sign that petition.
I generally am not one for like violent protests, but that is a topic I could potentially go off about.
You're like, get the pitchforks out.
Where's my torch? This is happening.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
happening. Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Well, so Roxanne, is there anything you want to like plug or tell everybody about? Guys,
Oh
I've been posting Roxanne's links, and I have to tell you, like, her Instagram is a great follow, her Twitter is a great follow. But yeah, Roxanne, tell the people what you want them to
yeah.
know.
I just did a mini mix for Kiss FM Australia for Open Deck, and that will be up on Thursday on their website, I believe. Which I will post all of those links on, my social media. I'll put it on Instagram.
Right.
I'll put it on
Yeah.
Twitter. I'll put it
Yeah.
on my Facebook page too.
Yeah, and guys, I don't know if you've noticed because you may have just been paying attention to Roxanne and not to the chat, but I am going to post a link to Roxanne's Mixcloud. She has a lot of mixes there. Very, very, very quality mixes, Miss
Hmm.
Roxanne. I
A
might
lot of
add.
different mixes in there too. It's not just drum and bass. I have some like
Yeah,
house and
yeah.
techno in there too as
See,
well.
yeah, and we didn't even get to talk about that and like how you sort of moved from like this insane for drum and
Yeah.
bass to doing
I
all
mean,
these different things, which
yeah,
was practically illegal as a junglist
I
for a
mean,
certain
yeah,
amount of time.
never give a shit. But like, yeah, I mean, I was from Florida, so breaks. I was always in the breaks, and being into that like South, bass sort of heavy music in general, is
Hmm.
always my
Hmm.
favorite. And respond to
Yeah,
bass. Okay.
yeah. Well,
um,
I mean, jungle and drum and bass got me into hip hop. I had never listened to hip hop before. Got me interested in reggae and dancehall, and I mean, just opened up a whole world of
yeah, I don't
things.
know. I think it's important to be versatile musically, right? Like being a
Yeah,
one trick pony is boring, in
yeah.
my opinion.
Well, we've talked about that in El Hornet's chat. You know that like the best musicians, the best DJs have the broadest tastes
Right.
because it
Yeah.
it all informs the whole thing.
Right. It's all connected, like
Yeah.
it all influences each other.
Yes.
It's obvious when you listen to drum and bass, all the influence that's there from all people who make it, who have been influenced by other musicians and
Mhm.
tastes and styles and all that thing,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roxanne, that mix you did, there's also going to be an interview with you on it,
Oh
right?
yeah, we
Like
do like a
they're
real short.
coupling it. Mhm.
Yeah, it's just a quick
Nice.
little. I think it was like a 5 minute. Just ask me some questions, and he asked me a
You
really
mean
funny
it?
question about like how I started DJing, and I mentioned mixtapes, and he was like cassette tapes, and I was laughing so hard. I was like, yes, cassette tapes.
Yes. Yes. Cassette tapes.
Oh shit.
I just moved and I actually found some tapes. I don't have my
Nice.
original mixtape, but I have like a bunch of mixtapes from other people and like practice tapes and all of that. And I'm just like, man, even my even CDs are outdated, let alone my little
Oh my
my
gosh.
tapes.
Tapes are making a comeback. What are you talking about? I mean, I don't know if I'd make one, but like tapes that
Yeah.
well, before the pandemic hit and everything shut, there's this little record store nearby that I go
Uh-huh.
to, and they have a whole section of like tapes of every genre of
Really?
music. It's fucking awesome. So I always go in there and I like just buy some. Even though I don't have a tape player, I'm like, I just want these.
So like are people like I mean, I can't say pressing tapes, but like, are they actually like producing tapes for sale, or is
Yeah,
it like
yeah.
individuals or
People are
labels
making
or?
tapes again. I mean, even tape players are on the rise again, which is, I thought about getting one. I was like, should I get one? Do I need this? No. But, you know,
That's I have a
for
friend
the,
who still
for
has
the
like
old
a
people.
like one of those dual tape deck things,
Yeah.
that you used to use to copy your tapes to give out to people.
Yeah. Paul is
Yeah.
super into it. Of course, he collects tapes. He has a whole collection of CDs, has a collection of tapes. Like, anytime there's a place I find with tapes, I'm like, yo, Paul, check it out. Look at all the tapes I
That's
found.
fantastic. That is fantastic.
um,
Guys, does anybody have any last minute questions for Roxanne? Serenity, I just opened my phone to look for a raid target, and I'm so sorry. I just saw your Instagram message, but you did find us. I'm sorry I didn't get to tell you the start time, but I'm glad you found us. Um, yeah. Oh, Lily has a VCR which eats up tapes. I have a friend actually that did an entire documentary about VHS.
oh
And
wow.
like people are still into VHS now.
I was
Eh,
like cleaning out boxes of stuff and I found some VHS tapes and I was like, damn, I still have VHS tapes. I'm like, I think I like just kept my favorite movies that I had on VHS and like I think I gave the rest away to Goodwill or whatever.
Yeah,
Probably could have just
yeah.
sold it for a bunch of money, me being dumb. But yeah. And I have a box of mixtapes from all of the people like drum and bass era, yeah, somewhere. It's packed away with all the flyers and all the other nostalgia.
I'm so jealous that you still have flyers. I got rid of mine and like I comb read it before that was a thing, and now I'm mad because those
uh,
they would give me joy now. Um
yeah, it's always fun
uh
having a taste of those boxes once in a while.
right?
Mhm.
Um So, Roxanne, thank you so much for being here. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much
you for
for
having
agreeing
me.
to do this. This was so much fun. I would love to have you back to talk. I mean, shoot, we could just talk about you again for 2 hours, not to mention the other interesting things that we could talk about. So thank you. The older I get, the more I know
Yeah,
that time is the most valuable resource we have, and I appreciate you giving
okay,
that to me tonight.
absolutely. Thank you for
Um,
having me. It was a fun chat. I mean, we could have just
Absolutely.
gone for an hour
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely. And we'll chat more. You might get me back to Twitter because looking at your Twitter today was actually fun. It was really fun. Um, so guys, Saturday I have Roxanne, you'll appreciate this. And Clearwater will too, and Wes. If any of you are familiar with Atmosphere Magazine, which was
Oh
between
yeah. Oh yeah.
atmosphere and knowledge, that was like a
Mhm.
lifeblood here for
Yeah.
us here in the US. I have two guys from Atmosphere that are going to be on with me on Saturday. So 9 a.m. Central, so that's 7 Pacific, 8 Eastern, and for the next 2 weeks, for the next 2 weeks, it is sorry, 3 in uh, the UK. after 2 weeks, they go to daylight savings time too. So they're
Their
going to be
daylight
here. Say again.
daylight savings is rough. I was
It's
just
the
like, I
worst.
think I was talking to Paul about that the other day. Like,
Yeah.
I remember it was my first time going to London. It was summer, and I was super jet lagged, and I was going to Fabric that night. It was like my first night in town. I was going to Fabric. I was staying with Chris Goss and his family, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go out to eat." It's like 10 o'clock at night, and it's still fucking daylight, like daylight. Like it's
What?
5 p.m. up in that bitch, but it's 10 o'clock at night. And I remember
Whoa.
being at the table. This is just a hilarious story. I remember being at the table and I was literally like so fucking tired, jet lagged, and it was like nighttime but daytime. And I was almost just like face plant in my food. I was so tired. And then I remember Amy, who used to work for them, who now works for Shogun, I think. I remember her sending me a message and she's like, "You look really tired. Do you want some cocaine?"
All right.
And
That's
I was
one way
like,
to do it. It
it was
is.
really,
It is an
and
option.
she was like, "Don't tell Chris."
Oh, that's amazing.
So
Love
funny.
it.
I just remember
Love
going
it.
with Marky and Friends with like Caliber and like a million other amazing DJs at Fabric. It was a great night, and I was fine once I got to the club, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
walking around at 10 o'clock at night and it's daytime really
Yeah.
fucked me up.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, big up Amy. She was trying to take care of you.
He's just
Um,
offering me some nose tears. It's fine.
yeah. Yeah. And guys, next Tuesday, I'm super excited because I'm having another woman on, Distinct, and we're going to raid into her because
Oh,
she's
nice.
on right now. She's amazing. She has so much energy, and I was so excited when I randomly caught one of her streams because her energy is fantastic. So,
Awesome. Well,
thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, peeps.
of
I'm going to start the
course.
raid, start the
Yeah.
start the post video, but I appreciate you guys. Urban Ghost, thank you for all the bits, and Visual Serenity for the bits. You guys are amazing. Meta for the sub. Y'all are awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, guys.
Fine.
All right. I'm gonna start the raid, and yeah, we will. I'm so bad at this raid thing, and I've been doing this too long to be this bad at it. Like
You're better
it, it's
than I am.
it's embarrassing at this point, honestly. But hopefully I typed her name right. 'There's supposed to be a button I can push to do it, but it never is right for me. Thanks, Twitch. You're the best. All right, cool. Awesome. Okay, guys, we're out. I'm gonna turn the video on. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. And I don't have the video because I didn't put it up. I'm an idiot. So yeah. Anyway, I don't have everything. It was a day. I swear to God, I was
Oh.
getting ready. I was getting ready to do this, and I thought it was 5:30, and all of a sudden it was 6. It's like 30 minutes just disappeared instantly. I
Boom,
blame
time.
2021. So, yeah. Wild. Okay, guys, I'm gonna hit the button. We'll go into Distinct, give her some love when we get there, okay? Bye. Thanks for being here. And here we go. The raid now button is slow. Oh, technology, man.
Oh, I see
It's a
her.
thing.
There she is. Technology. It's your friend and it's your enemy.